All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Low Code Campfire episode 39 for February 25th of 2022. And this week, we're going to take a look at some of our feature requests and a little follow-up with Mr. Jerry Mattox. I see he's our special guest star from Wednesday has joined us today, so that's great. I am Dale Warner, the head of support for Plant an App. And let me run through this. This was an event we do every week. It's a meeting format. It's just a community gathering where we get together and share techniques, challenges, experiences, questions. We get answers. This is an all skill levels event. All of our episodes are recorded. They're on YouTube, youtube.com/plantanapp. So be sure to subscribe to that. We run a pretty straightforward agenda where we say hi, and then it's pretty informal, but we'll do first calls, see what's on your mind, and if there's anything we can help you solve. And then we'll cover a variety of things like the contributions to our community website, our Campfire website rather, the feature requests from community, topics that get submitted to this already, open mic. Sometimes I sing. There's a few guidelines. The main one is if you've got noise going on behind you, please mute. This has been a pretty civil group all in these last 38 episodes, so I don't see anything going sideways today. You can submit questions and topics in advance. That link is on your screen as well as in the communications that we send out. And with that, I will say hello. Good group this morning. Glad that you're all here.
Good morning, Dale.
Everyone.
Hi, Dale. Good morning, everybody.
Morning, everyone.
So let's see. I touched on this. This is kind of informational. I touched on this and in Low Code Cafe on Wednesday, but we're changing our DNN minimum to 990. And for Plant an App clients, that's going to be a pretty straightforward process and one that we're going to be making even easier with a one-click upgrade button. But for our Action Form and Search Boost clients, that'll be something that will need to be applied before jumping up to 5.20 of our modules. And it doesn't apply to the other modules. So that's just informational. With that, first call, what's on your mind?
Dale, if I could be bold enough to jump in first, only because I found myself a little double booked this morning. I had forgotten on Wednesday that this is my son's birthday weekend, and I have left North Carolina and flown to lovely Orlando, Florida, and I'm about to spend the rest of my weekend walking all over Universal Studios. So I appreciate all y'all's sympathy and thoughts for me. But so I'm also at a bed and breakfast at the moment in time. A lovely place, but sketchy internet. So anything could happen with me at any moment. So I would beg of you, if you have any questions for me, if we could jump on those early, because I will certainly either get kicked off of this internet or possibly have to leave a good bit early. So, but appreciate your efforts on, well, I'm sorry, Dale, I saw where you had worked on my pages this morning and you saw where I had thrown in some stuff on the Campfire. I'll let you explain all that at your leisure. But it's a rough cut in, but I think it gives everybody a nice copy of what we were trying to illustrate on Wednesday.
Absolutely. I took a look around and saw that it's operational. We'll make a couple of adjustments and finalize and then put it in as a full-fledged contribution. But it is there for anyone who's interested to jump in. And I'm happy to go at your schedule, Jerry. I think if anybody has any questions about what they saw on Wednesday or, how can I do this or where can I send my check for Jerry?
I just wanted to comment, Jerry, that I really, really appreciated that presentation. I really did. I told you that I implemented a similar thing, but what you did was so much simpler than what I did. So I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Patrick. The one thing that I take pride in is dumbing everything down. So for me, not for you, but for me. And because, as a programmer, give me 2 weeks and I will have forgotten everything that we just talked about because we will have moved on to something else. So when I go back, I like for it to be straightforward and simple. And not going to lie to you guys, any type of deep integrating with Google is less than perfect. It's just the nature of the beast with Google. And but anyway, yeah, I'm here for you at least for the first half hour. If I can answer any questions or take it next level, or if you'd like to see a next level, or for me to tell you some of the options and cool things that I found inside of Google Maps that one can do just very simply. I'm an open book for you this morning. And as always, one of my friends and PAA cohorts had sent me an email asking me if I would charge to help him set up his maps. The answer is absolutely not. Any information to any of you guys is absolutely free 100% of the time. This is a group that all of us, but particularly me, should be proud to be a part of, because to integrate this type of talent in one roof, Dale, is just unbelievable. And, you know, I don't think any one of us can claim that we know it all, but we each know a whole heck of a lot. And so cumulative, we got a real powerful team here. And my contribution is just that you guys won't kick me out and let me stay in here and pick your brains too.
Well, thanks for that. I feel the same way. It's very encouraging to run this week by week and see what happens with it. So, anyone else with feedback for Mr. Jerry?
Yeah, I want to chime in. This is Mark. I'm going to imitate what Patrick said. You know, I've done a similar thing as well. And I know I spent hours and hours and hours figuring out the JavaScript that was necessary. And yours was, I could have used it so much easier, and I would have really appreciated it. And I'm going to be doing it again. So I'm going to be looking at your project. So thank you for making that available to everyone. That was a lot of work, and I'm sure it was a lot of work on your part and to make it simple for us.
Again, Mark, thank you. It was one of those things where the R&D on it was way more complicated than the actual implementing. Once I figured out how Google thought, then it was a lot simpler to write some much more cleaner JavaScript that would work for everything. And again, as you start your project, if you have a question or just have an idea or something, or want to bounce something cool you did off of me, please keep me in the loop on anything you do.
Okay, and did I understand that right, that you have put this out there on the Campfire website with all your code?
I did. You'll find me at the bottom, and those pages that you're seeing now, the first 2 pages are the entities that you can access. You can create yourself as a sales rep and then start entering your own customers if you like. And then there's a map for each of the 3 styles that I demonstrated. Thank you for zooming in on that. Those pens are so close together that you can't see the separation of them. And so once you zoom in, you can kind of see those addresses that I threw in. But there's a version of each thing that we talked about on Wednesday of that map. But I would encourage you can create your own, make yourself a salesperson and go chunk in as many customers as you like that make sense it makes sense to you, and then just test it at your free will.
So what I'll probably do just a little bit of housekeeping, Jerry, probably put some links between the pages, so have one main page and place where somebody can land and see the map, and then
absolutely
drill down to these other things. So not quite so menu dependent, but other than that, I mean, this is all there and working. And did you need me to the marker renderer, did that get put somewhere on the site already?
Yes and no. I emailed the code to you, and it has not yet been installed.
Okay, it's me. It's on me then. All right, I'll do it.
Or you give me access to the file system through DNN, and I can chunk it in there real fast for you and be done. It's either way. It's just a JavaScript file and some images in a couple of particular folders in a particular place, and then the marker clusters are going to start to work.
Great. So I'll get that done. A little bit of investment,
Okay.
and we'll touch on it maybe one more time next week just to see that it's all working and where people
Okay,
can find it. But it all works. Everything's there. So that's great. It's just a little bit of cleanup. I haven't worked with Jerry yet. So,
absolutely.
and so now we got, Matthew said, wicked awesome. So I like
Okay, I'll take that as a compliment. I like Wicked.
Well, and Matthew, where is around here? Is that Boston? That's where they say that in Boston.
Well, yeah, Greater Boston, yeah.
Okay.
We're in Rhode Island, so we don't really count for anything. So we have to attach ourselves to Boston, basically.
I'm sorry, you're from where?
Right. Bingo.
No, I did not hear what
Island, which is not part of Long Island.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. And just for what it's worth, see, we got the map here. I can do this. Actually, I'm just going to demonstrate because it's too easy here. We've got Jerry's customers. We'll put in a customer and I'll be guinea pig here. So the one that I just added already has, you've got the latitude longitude calculator working, so that'll be another great thing that we'll point to in the contributions. But if we go back to the map for my salesperson, I'll just show you where on the map I started from. So this far away from Boston as you can possibly get, but and still stay in Massachusetts anyway.
I was going to say Texas is a lot further, but okay.
Yeah. Well, my parents probably preferred that I didn't move quite so far away, but that's the way that goes. All right, so that's mapping, and we can continue talking about that or any other first call kind of agenda. What's going on? All right, let's get to the fun stuff. We did Jerry Mattox. We've looked at the Campfire website, and so we can see Jerry's contribution is in progress. There were no others that I'm aware of that were added to that. So I think it's time to jump into feature requests. This is the new section of the website, and so this is kind of like I was thinking I'm going to just run this like dog fighting, right? Just jump out there and propose your own. If there's something that you want to advocate for, we can see if we can generate a conversation and maybe some votes for it. And I just will tell you that we are actively looking at this list. We definitely want to deliver one or two or several things from this list as part of our 121. The next Bogdan, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're talking about adding for the 121, getting something from here up and going. So with that, who feels passionately about something they've submitted?
Well, this is Mark.
You've got five in here. I thought you might be passionate about something.
Yeah, I thought you might be looking for a comment from me. So yeah, I was counting it up in my head, and I spend easily between 40 and 60 hours per week using Plant and App. That is a lot of time. And I start to wish that I could speed some repetitive tasks up. And so the things that you see in my list are mostly wanting to do something like that. Like if you look at that top one, help find a particular field. I get these forms that I'm building that start getting tall in the form builder mode. And because there's a lot of fields, and a lot of times there's fields that are repetitive. Like if I have child 1, child 2, child 3, child 4, child 5, and then I've got age child 1, age child 2, and on and on. When I start looking at that in form builder, they stack really high. Field names are very, very similar when you're trying to scan them with your eyeballs. And so I'm looking for ways to speed up getting to the right one a lot easier. Versus visually looking down a long list and trying to find the right one. So, I have a list of suggestions there. I don't know that we want to go through them one at a time, but I would appreciate if anyone else would speak up and say, yeah, I wish that was faster too. Or no, Mark, that's just you, buddy. So, what do you think? I think we could make it faster. Before you speak, I want to inject another thought here, and that is that, in the vein of making a low-code product, I think that alongside that, if you're trying to appeal to folks who are not seasoned programmers, they're more casual programmers like myself, I think you would also want it to be like as quick and easy to use as well as low code. Don't make me jump through hoops to get to my easy thing. If I have to jump through hoops, and it's not that easy anymore. So that, along that line of thought, if I have to work extra hard to do an easy thing, then I think that's something that it's just ripe for improvement.
So we have an internal, I'm going to do two thoughts before I turn this over to additional comment. We have an internal discussion about making simple things simple. And I think this falls into that category of it should be a simple thing. The other is a personal comment of sympathy. And I think only the people on this group could identify. You can't complain to people that you get a callus on your mouse wheel spinning finger, because there's people who really work for a living that get calluses, right? But spinning in action form to get that back down to the thing that you need, and you expand the action, and then you spin all the way down, and you get back to the whatever inside of it. It is a little tedious. So
it adds up over time. I don't know. I probably do it 300 or 400 times. I don't know, in an hour, 2 hours. I don't know. It's a lot.
So, this one, I think we should take a look at all of your suggestions. They're great. This one jumps out to me as typically I work in an area, I'm tinkering with something. I want to try it. I want to see, okay, I've adjusted a parameter. I want to test the result. And typically I'll have the form open on one tab and the design open on another tab. But you hit save and everything closes up, and you've lost your spot. And so now you got to find it again. You got to open it again. So I think if we had some way either that we didn't close up right on save, that would be, there's no particular reason that we have to, I think, other than the part where I suspect we're just sending it to initialize the form after we save, and initializing the design area. So it's not that we're intentionally closing everything up, it's just that it does. So if we could avoid that, I think that might be an easy win, and just let you stay where you were, especially if that save button was on your screen. You didn't have to scroll up to get it. That would be even less scrolling. But so you had said set the background color of the field bands. So that was one suggestion, and so that would be visually being able to identify sections of your form of your just to leave yourself basically breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Adding a filter drop down, much like we have that pattern in place. It'd be nice if you could just add that so that you could jump to something. Making it be persistent, and I think this is an area where we have opportunity to improve in several places in our product. We, for example, in entities, we have the ability to filter things, but those filters don't persist. So that would be very cool. We've already talked about that one.
And you just talked about that one.
Talked about that one. Jump to being able to get right to it. And so anyone else Is this just me and Mark, or does anyone else want to vote for this?
You're here.
Who was that?
Ben has his hand
Me.
up.
Yes, sir.
Say again.
I didn't want to interrupt. I want to, let everyone say their piece. So
Ben has
just
more to
waiting.
say.
I agree that it would be really great to have it so that it doesn't snap shut every time you save. Two ideas that I had in this theme was basically, well, one of them you were saying, Mark, to identify fields. Maybe a nice feature to have too is on the left side of each of those gray bars that represent each field to have a small icon that represents the type of field that it is. So a little picture of like a drop down, or a picture of a file if it's the file uploader, whatever it is, but something that we could just look at the left hand side of it and just really glean quickly what type of field object it is. Because if we know halfway down the form we're looking for a file uploader, we're just going to look for that icon halfway down our list, see it, and then say, okay, I'm in the right area. Another thing was regarding that save button. I like the idea of it not snapping shut, but I'm thinking maybe just because I'm also the type of programmer that I hate doing changes that completely change behavior, that completely change behavior, maybe having two save buttons, one regular save that doesn't snap everything shut, and like a save and reset form, or save and reinit, something to that effect, where if you do that save, then it does the old behavior of snapping everything shut for you.
That would also be served if you were to save and then it would open up right where you were, or reopen the sections that had been expanded when you hit the save button. So it's variations of the same theme.
And it'll be interesting when we get it in front of the development, the product team, to see it. It might be, drop dead easy to just avoid resetting the form versus trying to have a behavior that remembers where you are and finds it again. But will be interesting. I mean, I think we've heard the complaint. Maybe we can leave it to product to figure out how to answer the question. So.
I have one other suggestion regarding that save button. I've seen in a lot of skins where they have the jump to top button that floats on the bottom corner of the page. Could we do something to that effect with the save buttons so that it floats stuck in a certain position, maybe not necessarily the bottom right corner, because a lot of skins use that area, but maybe slightly a little bit more, towards the center where the form actually is, so that as we're scrolling up and down, we always have access to that save button instead of having to jump to the end or to the top of a long list of fields.
So are you saying a jump to top button or a save button?
A save button, but similar to the jump to top, where it's just always floating stuck in that position.
Yeah, I like that idea. Recently the save button that's at the bottom has been removed and now it's only at the top. And I have definitely noticed that change.
Same here.
It's, I would say, a little bit less convenient, but only because I'm in a habit of, I was scrolling to the bottom and hitting that save and now it's gone.
Yes, we're all product of.
Has anyone else
I've
bought
noticed
a mouse with the free spinning scroll wheel just for plant and app module? Yeah, it's out there. I'll tell you which one it is. It's awesome.
Yeah, I had to change to a trackball with a spinning wheel because I was getting pains in the back of my hand using the mouse. So I've now got one I spin with my ring finger and a trackball.
Exactly.
Going back to indeed. Going back to the save button, I think having a save which leaves everything where it was is a nice idea. But like Ben, I do want to be able to collapse everything simply, one button to collapse everything, not necessarily on save, but so we could have a save that just saves stuff and a button that collapses everything back down. From my point of view, having a floating toolbar or something I can pop open with a command that will let me start typing the names of a control and jump me to that control, I think would solve an awful lot of it, because I can usually remember bits of the name. So something like that. The other thing that I'm thinking of from writing unnecessarily long PowerShell scripts in Visual Studio Code is you can get the mini map of what you're working on sort of floating to the side, and it gives you an overview. And I'm not obviously with code you get the shape of it, but I'm wondering something like that you could have something that's floating there that has the various sections, and you could say, well, I need to move sort of 3/4 of the way up, tap on that, and you navigate to that part of the page rather than having to scroll.
These are all great ideas.
One additional related thought is, I oftentimes am writing some script in the on-change bind area, and I'm only so good with JavaScript, so I have to go back and tweak it and then try it and then go back and find it again and tweak it and repetitively. So I found myself really wishing I could go straight to a particular thing, like not just to the field, but like all the way down to the on-change section and have it open and ready for me to do my thing. So gosh, if I could get straight back into a particular thing, not just an area, that would really be a time saver. Like if I could just tag something and say, I'm working on this JavaScript, I'm going to tag this spot right here, and when I save, I want it to open back up to this spot right here. That's what would really make me happy.
Mark, I'm just curious, if, let's say for argument's sake, it was possible to have a floating save button that we always see that doesn't collapse anything and just saves the form and doesn't make any changes whatsoever to the form, wouldn't that basically suffice for what you're saying?
Because I'd be right where I want to
be.
Because
it won't move you, it'll just save the form, leave you where you are, and since you didn't have to scroll to reach that save button, you'd still be in that same exact position.
Oh, I definitely agree, but I don't know the background. Like, does the form have to collapse when it is saved? I don't know that, but if what you're suggesting would be awesome. Yeah.
I have to say, Ben, you should have left your mic open when you were laughing. I don't know what tickled you so much, but yeah, you've just been there so many times, I think.
No, because Jim Anthony writes, Alexa, save my action form in chat.
Oh.
I saw that pop up and it made me laugh.
Oh, cool. All right. So just a reminder, I did this a second ago, but this thumbs up this is the place to go if you want to save your make a thumbs up on this if you agree about this. So I'm going to post my reply here so we can see the reply feature, and then we'll go back to feature requests.
Before we move away from that completely, there was a feature request that I was wanting to put in, but I have a horrible feeling it's possible to do it, but I haven't figured out how. And it's related to this. On the edit the form, edit the grid, those pages, is it possible to make them dark mode?
I suspect it is. I
assume it's one of those things that I would really like, but I haven't figured out how to do it. But I'm sure it must be possible, and it would be quite nice to have a nice button that says I want it to be. Well, I would always want it to be dark, but at least have the choice.
I saw some. I mean, essentially that's CSS, right? So, I mean, I know it's obviously technically possible. So the question is, if we were to solve this on a large theme, to be able to have it know your preference and everywhere you go to have it be dark mode, right?
You know, related to that, because I've been kind of stewing on this issue that we're talking about for a little while now. Having a button to change in dark mode is awesome idea. I would suggest that we could do things like that for ourselves if we had a place in the form builder to store a little bit of JS and a little bit of CSS. Because if we were to scroll down to the bottom of the form builder and we'd have a box for JS and a box for CSS, we could style the page however we liked. I could have identified those fields that I wanted to be highlighted with a little bit of CSS. So I suggest that giving us a couple of boxes we could save in would solve a lot of problems that maybe would take it off of your plate, Dale, and Plant and App. Maybe a quick fix that would be good, because you know, Jim could put his CSS in there to put dark mode on any form that he would like, and I could find my fields and scroll down to the right one and all that. But that is an idea.
Great. Well, so this is a good brainstorming session. So thanks for that. So I don't want to rush it. Did we get everyone that was connected to this idea? All right, posting. All right. So feature requests. Who wants to and see? You got, I don't know, at least 3 more votes since we started. So the system works.
So Ben, you've got some stuff in there. You better talk it up so you can increase your vote count.
Is there a way of is there a way of sorting by the number of votes?
Not at the moment.
That sounds like a feature request.
Well, our community manager might take that on for you. I would like to be able to filter by contributor too. We were wanting to jump into Mark's contributions. So I'm just saying, okay. All right, who wants to jump in and lobby for votes?
Well, I'll lobby for mine. This is Jim. I'm on the second page though. I've been voted
Relegated.
off the island.
Relegated. All right, this one.
So my real thing would be able to have the ability to move entities we create out of the DNN database into a separate database via connection string in web config. And you know, for me, it's holding back adoption at some of my clients, because they're like, we need to be able to have we're not moving all their data into a DNN database, but some simple utility tables that we could create and maintain are off in another table someplace or another database. So when they do some scripting and stuff on their databases, they can't use anything I create easily. So that, and for me also the ability to, let's go upgrade, upgrade Plant and App or DNN and not have to worry about data corruption because it's sitting in the same database.
So Jim, in your request, are you wanting the whole Plant and App atmosphere to work on an external data table, like building the APIs automatically and doing the CRUD automatically?
I mean, if we're creating the entity in my oversimplification view, it's like just having a different connection string to entities. You know, that entities aren't always going to the site SQL server. I don't know how true that is, but I would like to be able to create, just like in other places in the app, I can say, use this connection string to connect to this database to read data. I would like to be able to create a table in that database and maintain it doesn't have. I don't
So it
need-
has the same experience. It's just to a different place.
right, just to a different place.
You would need quite high a high level of permissions in that external database to be able to do everything. So which is not necessarily a barrier to that. Typically, when we've connected external databases, we give table read, table write type permissions. We don't give rights to create tables or delete tables or modify tables in that external database to DNN. So I don't think it's an impediment to doing this, but I don't think Plant and App can always assume it has all the rights it needs to manipulate a table. I'm also wondering if using synonyms might be a way of doing that, but obviously the table table and would have to pre-exist, and you'd have to load in a table and build out the Plant and App entity from the existing table, rather than the other way around.
Right. I mean, and I thought of other things that I've thought of it would be a workable solution is, let me create it and build the table structure in Plant and App in the DNN database, and then export via SQL. I can go over and run a script to move that table into the customer's database, and then just repoint the entity over there. I don't see any way to repoint an existing entity after. Yeah.
Would us? But this is Bogdan or someone technical might be able to say, if once you export it to the external database, then in your DNN database you create a synonym to that external one, would Plant and App still work? Because in most cases you can use a synonym as if it was a local table. So if you could you convince Plant and App that the synonym is actually the thing it previously created locally?
So I'm definitely not technical. I'm going to make a guess that there's some. I'm going to make a guess that many things would work and some things wouldn't, and especially around the rights that you were already talking about, and So I don't know that I would just set out that way, except on a test basis. But I will also say that internally the discussions. This is on our roadmap. This is something that we definitely want to solve, to have the ability for data to be separate from the DNN database. I don't know that we've decided how that's going to happen. What exactly is going to look like. So I'm sure that we will appreciate this discussion and being able to refer back to it as we get into that. I'm sorry, one more thing. Jim, you're consistent. Is it possible this is something you've mentioned in a end of year special once or twice?
Yes. Yes, that was before we had feature requests though. So I figured I threw it out there, and at the end of the year when I got asked what was my number one thing.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I put it out here.
And I think it's good to hear. It's good for everyone to hear that this is on our side. It's good to hear that this is something that stops adoption by just the kind of clients we want to attract. It's something that's important for us to solve.
So vote,
cool.
Vote early, vote often.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Ben.
No, that's fine. No, what I was going to say was, I mean, again, this is just looking at Plant and App and its current structure. I know that the connectors has already been extended once to now add SMTP ability to it. I'm thinking this might be a good situation to enhance that connector section a little bit further to allow for SQL connection strings, and then even that portion of it to kind of tack on to what Jim E was saying, when you add in that connection string to maybe hit a button to validate, to make sure you have enough permissions using that connection string to be able to manage entities completely, and creating tables, deleting tables, modifying them, so forth, so on. But we also have to remember that, and I could be wrong, and correct me if I am, but I believe creating entities using the entity builder also creates a lot of metadata in local tables. So all that information would still probably need to be stored locally on the DNN database. I don't think that would probably easily be able to be pushed off to another database.
Right. And I don't necessarily see that as a problem, that it would just need to know that it's elsewhere and manage it in such a way.
Yeah, and then you also have the situation, the possible situation, that if there is an interruption in the communication between your website and that external database, those tables will not be reachable and will cause some probably strange behavior.
Also, change in rights could happen. That's completely possible.
And there's also the layer of foreign key relationships, right? So when you start having an entity in one database and an entity in a different database, we can no longer enforce the relationship. So extra logic needs to be added to make sure there's data integrity.
Cool. All right. So,
oh boy, I got 2 more votes.
there it is. Great. So, and see, we're going to make no second-class citizens. There's just one page here. Who else wants to talk about lobby for?
Okay, well, since we're all lobbying, it's minor, but it's something that I've done all the time, and now it's biting me. And it may sound silly, but it's that underscore in a token name. I've used it all the time in the past, and now you can't do it, but it's allowed everywhere else. You can use underscores in scheduler, you can use underscores in APIs, all these other things, but now tokens won't allow underscores in the names. And I used to use that all the time to kind of break out sections and help it like organize and be able to be readable a little bit easier. So now, anything that was made in the past with underscores are there and function, but you can't create any new ones.
Can you sneak around it and go to the old my tokens interface?
I haven't done that because I don't want to break anything.
I understand, but this sounds like yeah, doesn't sound like a huge lift. Anyone from a art side know if this was something that we did intentionally?
I don't recall hearing about it.
I will take it under advisement. We'll see if it's like Santa Claus said on Christmas. We'll see what we can do about that, right? Okay. We have time for 1 or 2 more, and then there was a question that was submitted that I want to make sure that we leave time to get to. So,
are we still in the lobbying mode?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is a pretty straightforward one. I just submitted it, and it's the only one I've submitted. Basically, if you've got a page with a lot of tabs, forms, listings, and whatever else in there, when you go to the gear icon on the lower right to edit, everything kind of comes up at once, and it's organized, but it's not clear as to how. They all have a gear next to them, but you don't know which one's a form, which one's a list. You don't know which tab it's under, and so on and so forth. Yeah, exactly. So the header, obviously, in this case is different, but you can't tell the difference between what's a tab and what's a list unless you name it, which in this case you did. But if you've got, in my case, I've got one page with like 20 or so on there, it gets pretty confusing pretty quickly. So just a simple, an icon that represents the type. So if it's a form, it's one icon, and a list is another icon, and so on. And then maybe organize it underneath the tab. So if you've got, say, 4 or 5 tabs across with 1 or 2 modules each, so that you've got the tab, then the modules underneath there with their respective icons to show that it's a list versus a form. Otherwise, you just get into, you have to name stuff particularly in order to make sure it works. And maybe even, I don't know if it makes sense, to put the module ID right next to it. Like you've got samples tab pro on that one, put the module ID out there so you know exactly what, like if you're happen to be looking for, it's a quick way to go get it and reference it. Please, everybody, I'm asking for your votes. Okay, thank you.
Matt, this nearly made it in 120.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, but didn't cut it through.
All right. I'll consider that a vote.
Look at that. It's a sympathetic crowd. All right. It makes sense. And, it's for the people, if you are using our entity builder and there's 3 things on the page, it's a different scenario than if you're developing that particularly complex page, the one that's going to be in front of your your users, that you're trying to do everything in one spot to versus just what's the 3 things. I get it. When there's 20, it's a different problem. All right. Time for one more. Somebody want to take the opportunity?
I can bring mine.
Did you put it in here?
Yeah, I think one of the first one, the one with VS Code, that sounds like
Oh yeah.
to solve some of the problems that were discussed here. So basically, I did a bit of research, I think last year, and I saw that Visual Studio Code can actually be integrated with remote services. So basically, you could open, let's say, a token or a SQL action in Visual Studio Code locally, and when you save it, automatically goes back to the server. So we could use that for JavaScript, for tokens, for SQL, for Razor.
So for like a JavaScript that was on a form, either the form or on a particular action, even down to that level, could it be integrated?
Yep. Any let's say code editor that we have.
Yeah. So particularly for things like the My Tokens, especially if you've got a very complicated My Token, that would make such a difference. And also you get all of the, I assume if it opens in your local VS Code, you get all your extensions and the helpers and that sort of thing. So yeah, that will make a big difference. You can only vote once, I've discovered, and I've already voted. So this is the best I can do to promote it.
Yeah, see, if you click again, it goes down. So you can only vote and unvote. That's the design, right, Ben?
That is correct.
All right. You can't, no thumbs down. Everybody, we're a positive community. Right?
Exactly. We're all about positivity here. I have a quick question, actually.
Sure.
If I can sneak in for a sec.
Please.
I'm curious, since we have a whole bunch of people here, I just want to hear back from them. The ability to run tokens using the apply tokens, where you can actually just name whatever the token is manually and run it, is a great feature. What I'm finding is I would like to have that same ability for workflows, to execute a workflow by compiling its name along with whatever parameters it needs, as opposed to selecting it from the pre-created items. because I'm trying to do something dynamically and I'm using workflows, but now I'm creating tokens to execute workflows just so that I can use them in the apply version. It's just like an extra step and extra stuff I'm creating that could be avoided if we could just use an expression to execute a workflow. Does anyone else think that that's something usable or that you would use? Or
we were just talking about this.
oh, okay then.
It's occurred to us.
Yeah, along that lines, there are times when I would like to do context tokens that are more like arrays. So being able to use a token in the name of a token when you're doing an assign. So you could have customer 1 and customer 2, it could come in handy to be able to. So there's these times when being trying to be more dynamic kind of comes into play. But I'm not serious enough to actually write a feature request and lobby for votes. So cool. So my intention would be that we'll circle back to this from time to time. So continue please to take a look at what others submit and submit your own. And we'll do just this in Campfire to, call attention, lobby for, and then just know that as we build our map for future releases that we're looking at this stuff and trying to find things that the community is passionate about, that these things get into the release. Can't do everything, but we can do some things, and we want to do smart things. Okay. With that, I'm going to move on to, there was a question, and Peter is still on the call, so that's good. Wanting to talk, he asked, how can I directly communicate between two forums on the same page, not through query string? And this is the kind of thing, question came in right before, and I'm sure I could find and research and push out an answer, but I assume that some of you guys do this stuff all the time, probably through JavaScript, and can just point Peter in the right direction.
Yeah, I've done stuff like this too, and I've been using JavaScript jQuery to just throw a value into a particular field or other thing on a different form.
So this is where you have to use the module ID to talk to the other module that's on the page. Is that what you're?
Yeah, but you could use the field. In jQuery, you get the field ID, and then you can reference it. You don't need the module ID. I also have another implementation where I'm actually doing a quick save on just one field. I save it to a table that makes sense for me to have it there. I wanted it there anyway. And then the other, I'll just do a reinit form on the other one to grab it. Or even if you put a button on the receiving form that refreshes just one field, and then you set it to do it Ajax without a refresh, you can call the second button from the first form, and it all happens quickly and silently. So you're effectively moving data from one form to another. So JavaScript and a save and retrieve are two ideas. I'm sure there's more.
Yeah, there's actually also like a built-in mechanism in action form, and I'm sure that if you search for it, you can find some examples where you can access the Angular scope. So then you have like a JavaScript variable, and when you update that, it updates the form automatically, right? So there, I think there is some example we're getting. The scope is called.
Yeah, I tried that, but I couldn't find a solution for that particular case, because it's the case is actually I have a certain value on the form which is calculated, and then on the other form there's another value, and it's sort of I need to do an API call to get it to get the result from the API call and put it in the second form again. So at some point in time, it doesn't. I can't get it to work.
Mhm.
So that's bugging me all day now. So that's
Another way to do it, which probably again it's a good pattern. You know, there's a JavaScript API is called window.postMessage or something like that. So you can do like a message mechanism where one form or any component on the page can post a message, and then you have at the other end you implement JavaScript that listens for that event. So that's also a pattern that gets that maybe gets you inside the other form.
So way back when I did the pusher thing, I built a little chat. This isn't very particularly pretty, but when we click something, it goes from one form to the other. So, and pusher is probably very overkill for what you're trying to do. But behind the scenes, I think there's some code that I'm using that when it's along the lines of the listener that Bogdan was just mentioning. So I will take it on me to find that little bit of code and send it your way, Peter.
Oh, thank you.
Dale, didn't you do a low-code feature focus on something like this, where we were pulling data out of a grid selection and pushing it back to a form?
Yes.
Yeah, you got that filtering mechanism where you can use a filter from action form to filter the grid. That's also an example, I guess. Yeah, the thing is, I sort of inherited a solution, and then you start to change it, and you sort of start to.
Sorry. We'll talk about how to save a grid select. I'm gonna. This one will probably answer the form. I think that will answer the question, and I'm gonna put this on the chat. Let's see, and if it doesn't. Open a
Okay,
case.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let me put that on the chat for everyone.
Thank you.
And if just while we're there, if you didn't see it, that I wanted to mention this. You know, you go to our youtube.com/plantanap, and you can search for something that you're trying to do. Or if you remember, we did it in a video, and it does a pretty good job, really, of finding them. So that's a resource for these kinds of things. Cool. Well, at least we got you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay. In just a moment, I'm going to wrap this up, and we'll go to our Afterglow, our Embers event, where recording is off, and we can be social. But if there's any last thoughts before I do that, happy to entertain. All right. With that, thanks for everyone for attending this community event. I think we all get a lot out of it. I mean, on our side, and I hope you do on your side. And we just thank you for being here. We will see you next week.